Welcome to We Learn, Virtual Learning Network. This is session number 19th of the subject The Study of Society, and the chapter is State and Other Institutions. Let's see the topics to be covered. The state, state and the government and society, state and other associations and nation, institutions under the political system, the individual and the state, democracy and individual. The state. The term political system has been preferred by political sociologists instead of the conventional term state in order to accommodate several subsystems that do not form a direct part of the state in the strict sense of the term. The term state has a different meaning in political science from the one given in it in the ordinary parlance. So the term state has a different meaning in political science rather than just a common man or a layman views it. So in state, other subsystems of the society which do not form a direct part of it also comes. Marxists have viewed the state as an instrument of exploitation in the hands of the ruling class. Sociologists have defined the state as an association which legally maintains social order within a community. The state has also been viewed as society, divided into government and subjects, claiming within the allotted physical area a supremacy over all other institutions. So the Marxists, sociologists and other people have given their separate definitions of the state. Certain essential properties of the state emerge, that is, population, territory, government and sovereignty. Population, people are required to give the state a proper form. Territory, a proper geographical area has to be required to give the state a proper form, and the government, the rules, norms and regulations have to be required to give the state a shape, and sovereignty means that state has to be free from internal as well as external control. Population. The state arises out of the gregarious instinct of human beings combined with his or her political instinct. The state comes into existence originating in the bare needs of life and continues in existence for the sake of a good life. States with large populations have certain political advantage over states with very small populations. The state arises out of the gregarious instincts of the individuals or the human beings which combine a state. Next is territory. All states require revenue which will not be forthcoming. The economic base is provided by the land under the authority of the state. The state can establish authority over its subjects only if they live in a territory. Territory is very important because it identifies a certain population within it. An argument is sometimes advanced that small states are more conducive to democracy than big states. At the same time, states with large territories have the advantage of mobilizing huge natural resources which small states do not have, especially when resources dry over time. Government. The government is agency of the state and exists for carrying out the will of the state. Without a government, a state cannot function. As a matter, the very justification for a state is that it provides people with the machinery for orderly life. The state does this through a government. A state cannot be conceived of without a government. Sovereignty. The word sovereignty means ultimate power. The distinguishing character of a state is the monopoly of coercive power over all individuals and institutions within its territory. No one can question the power of state. It extends to the relationship with other sovereign states as well. No state has power to impose restriction on another state and thus is recognized by international law. State and government. Government can exist independent of the state as in the so-called stateless societies. Historically, the family preceded the state. But while a government can exist without a state cannot exist without a government. Government is an element of the state. It is created to achieve the goal of the state. The difference between the state and government may now be summarized. The state is an abstraction, but the government is a concrete element of the state. The state is a supreme body, but the government is an element of the state. The state is more or less permanent, whereas the government's authority is derived and limited by the terms of the constitution. Sovereignty is an attribute of the state and not of the government. The state and society. The state is the agency which performs the political function in society and as such is a subsystem of the society. The political function is different from the functions performed by other agencies in a society but is functionally integrated with those functions. The state has also to pursue its interests in the international field. State and other associations. In some states, the associations have become so strong that they are able to put a brake on the state's arbitrary use of power. These associations argue that the state is only one among them. This argument is called political pluralism. In countries such as UK and USA, where democracy has reached some level of maturity, pluralism has become a very strong challenge to the state's arbitrary use of power. Means if the state uses any arbitrary power, then people can oppose it. It can be put to task. State and the nation. The word nation is derived from the Latin word nation, which means born. This means that a nation is a people descended from a common stock. The ethnic attribute of nation is seen in almost all of the definitions of nation. The nation has been defined as a population of an ethnic unity inhabiting a territory of a geographical unity. So basically nation is a people descended from a common stock, and it is the ethnic attribute. The nation has the ethnic attribute, and also it is inhabiting a territory. A nation is the people's consciousness of unity. Once this consciousness is achieved, ethnic difference lose their importance. Switzerland is a good example. It is inhabited by 3 ethnic groups. The theory of one nation, one state, or the creation of states on the basis of self-determination became practical politics after First World War. The state is different from the nation. The state is a people organized for law within a definite territory, whereas a nation is a people psychologically bound together. Statehood is objective, nationhood is subjective. Statehood is an obligation enforceable by law, whereas nationhood is a condition of the mind, a spiritual possession. Statehood is an obligation enforceable by law. A state may consist of one nation or different nations. Related to the word nation are the 2 other words, nationality and nationalism. Nationality is a spiritual or psychological identification among people having common affinities like common origin, race, language, tradition or history, and common political aspirations. Nationalism is the growth of a feeling of oneness among people based on the same attributes that contribute to nationhood and nationality. Institutions under the political system are 2 sets of institutions that enable the state to function: government organizations and non-government organizations. Government organizations are executive, legislature, judiciary, and bureaucracy. Non-governmental organizations are political parties, interest groups, and the press. Governmental organizations, depending upon the number of persons sharing authority, we can speak of the rule by one or rule by many persons. The former can be a monarchy or a dictatorship. If power is in the hands of a few persons, it is called oligarchy. If it is in many hands, it is democracy. These descriptions are not precise but approximations. In the United States of America, the president can be removed only by impeachment by the 2/3 majority of the Congress. The unitary type exists where the government is centralized and there is local autonomy. The legislature is one of the 3 branches of the government. It is a lawmaking body of the state. In parliamentary democracies, the legislature has unlimited power to make or annul any law. But in states where the presidential form of government prevails, or in oligarchies or dictatorships, the legislature's power to make or annul laws is limited. But in parliamentary democracies, the legislature has unlimited power to make or annul any law. Legislatures differ both in type and composition. The 2 major types are unicameral and bicameral, whereas in the former there is only one lawmaking house in the state, for example Norway or Israel. In the latter, the legislature consists of 2 houses, generally called the assembly, lower house, and the council, upper house. Legislature's composition also differs from state to state. In some states which are under the dictatorial rule, all the members of the legislature, or at least a majority of them, will be the nominees of the ruler. Sometimes the members of the upper house will be elected by the people directly. In India, the Lok Sabha consists of members directly elected by the people, while the Rajya Sabha members are elected by the members of state legislative assemblies. The executive, this term is used to designate all those officers of the government whose business is to execute or put into effect the laws passed by the enforcement of the law alone. The formulation of policy and its implementation through programs are also the work of the executive. These activities vest on the executive's enormous power, and as a result, many of the legislatures will look towards the executive for patronage. So this also happens. The executive is responsible for the implementation of the policies. Hereditary principle. This is the way kings come to power. There are only very few monarchs as heads of state in modern times, and even though they rule with limited power, the most well-known hereditary rulers are the Queen of England, the King of Saudi Arabia, the King of Nepal, and the King of Thailand, the King of Japan, etc. So these are the kings which have come to power by hereditary. Election. Prime Minister of India is elected. So also are the presidents of the United States of America, France, and most of the democratic countries of the world. Elected executives rule only for a limited period as prescribed by the constitution and the country concerned. The judiciary is the body which adjudicates the laws made by the legislature. The judiciary consists of a hierarchy of courts. Usually at the lower level there are two parallel systems of courts, the civil courts and criminal courts. The highest court is called Supreme Court. In England it is a Privy Council. In India, the highest court at the state level is called High Court. There are district, zilla and munsif or magistrates court at the lower levels. The bureaucracy. In modern times, the functions of the state have increased by leaps and bounds, and many of these functions have become highly technical. The civil service in the modern state is recruited on modern lines. Officials are recruited through competitive examinations, usually by impartial agency. Elaborate rules are framed for guiding the officials in their work. The whole system has been highly professionalized. This system is called bureaucracy. So basically, elaborate rules are also framed for guiding the officials in their work, and competitive examinations are held. Political parties. A political party is defined as association organized in support of some principle or policy which by constitutional means it endeavors to make the determinant of government. Political parties are indispensable for the working of a democratic government. They are connecting link between the people and the government. They may differ on ideologies and consequently on their goals and means. The modern trend is to divide them broadly into two categories, right and left. The rightist parties are conservative and status quo oriented, whereas the leftist parties are revolutionary and change oriented. The rightist parties are conservative, peaceful, gradual changes they focus on, and status quo. Whatever is there, it should be maintained the way it is, status quo. Whereas leftist parties are violent, revolutionary, and they want change quickly and immediately. Interest groups. Interest groups may be based on economic, ethnic, linguistic, religious, regional, or other considerations. Sometimes they would convert themselves into political parties or win over some members of the government ruling party and pressure the government to concede their demands. Within the legislature, their friends and fellow travelers could form an informal group. Interest groups and pressure groups use a number of strategies to influence the government and to get their demands accepted. And sometimes they also convert themselves into political parties. They are based on economic, ethnic, linguistic, religious, regional, or other considerations as well. The press. The media. The press enables the citizens to know what is really happening in the country, especially what the government does or does not for them. For a political party, the press is a sure medium for propagating their programs. In any case, the citizen would be best informed about the political developments and political processes in the state through the press and other mass media like radio and TV, internet, etc. So the press informs the individuals, it makes awareness amongst the individuals about the political happenings in the country. The individual and the state. The declared goal of all government is the welfare of their citizens. The relationship is reciprocal. The modern democratic state confers the following rights on the individual: right to life, liberty and limited right to property, right to freedom of speech and religion, right to equality, right to education, and right to public offices. Democracy and individual. Democracy is most vulnerable to ills like mobocracy or dictatorship. In either case, a majority mobocracy or arbitration of a single person dictatorship will replace. It's very necessary that the two extreme forms of democracy are avoided, neither mobocracy nor dictatorship. This can be best ensured only if the citizens are enlightened and aware. So this was all about democracy, individuals as well as the state, and making people realize the power of the state as well as the press, the governmental organizations and non-governmental organizations. Governmental organizations are basically the legislature, executive, judiciary, and the bureaucracy. The non-governmental are political parties, interest groups, the press, the media. The media informs the individuals, the citizens that what is happening around in the country, and also gives them information about the political happenings, what the politicians are doing, what they are not doing, what the government is doing for them, what they are not doing, and what they should support and what they should be doing for them. And also, the legislature, executive, and judiciary are the three branches of the government. They are the three pillars of the government, and the bureaucracy forms the fourth pillar. And also, the press is hugely becoming an important part of the state. So, these are some of the questions. You have to do it yourself. Question number 1, what are the essential attributes of a state, and what are the fundamental differences between the state and the government? Thank you. Happy learning. We learning.